Howdy, everyone. Do you like open worlds? You can roam everywhere, unless there's an invisible wall. Fuck walls. Well, the year of our Lord 2022 is giving us a crap ton of open world games. You get an open world. 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 You get the point. Well, it's February, and we already got 3 of them. I haven't gotten into Elden Ring yet as of recording this, but I played a decent amount of Dying Light 2 and Horizon Forbidden West. So are they any good? Well, Techland announced Dying Light 2 during Microsoft's E3 conference in 2018. And after a big delay and a long period of silence, Dying Light 2 was re-revealed as Dying Light 2 Stay Human in the middle of 2021. Does anyone call it Dying Light 2 Stay Human? What's the point of the Stay Human part? Like, everybody calls it Dying Light 2. And after one more delay, the game finally launched in February of 2022. Just like the first game, I was interested in trying it out. Though, as the game got closer and closer to launch, a few things made me hesitant. First of all, it was releasing in the same month as all of this. On top of that, Techland released a few statements that came off as red flags to me. Like, for example, I don't want to play a 500-hour game. Maybe back when I was in middle school, I would have been down to play a 500-hour game. But as I get older, I'd rather have a short, amazing game than a long, boring one. It later came out that it really takes 20 hours to beat the story, 80 hours to beat the side missions as well, and then 500 hours to just do everything. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds a lot more reasonable. Then prior to launch, Techland announced that the game would be supported for 5 years. I think that's a big red flag. It made me think that this game wouldn't be complete at launch. It gave off major live service vibes. So how is the game? Well, after roughly 10 hours, I do admit that Dying Light 2 is fun at times, but overall, it's a mess. Dying Light 2 is focused on Aiden. He is a man looking for his missing sister. His search brings him to this city, Villedor. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Aiden gets caught in the middle of this big conflict in the city between this police-like group known as the Peacekeepers and this other group of freedom fighters. One thing that stands out about Dying Light 2 is the day and night cycle. During the day, zombies are somewhat normal. They're dangerous, of course, but they're relatively easy to kill. Though at night, the zombies get more and more aggressive. On top of that, Aiden got bitten early in the story. So at night, and in just about any dark area, he's at risk at being turned into a zombie. Hence the subtitle, Stay Human. So why go out at night? Completing missions at night lead to much bigger rewards, and upgrades are to be found all around the open world. The combat is pretty simple, but it works well enough. You have weapons. You whack enemies with said weapons. You also have the option to mix in some hand-to-hand combat. Like you get to hop over one guy and then kick another guy in the face right after. There are a ton of upgrades too. It isn't an open world game without a skill tree. Apparently a grapple hook can be earned at one point, but I didn't get to unlock it yet. Though I can see the grapple hook being a big game changer in a title like Dying Light 2. Though without a doubt, the best thing about Dying Light 2 is the parkour! The parkour is excellent. It controls so well. It feels so fast and fluid. Jumping from rooftop to rooftop never gets boring. The most fun I've had in this game is just free running from point A to point B. I mainly played Dying Light 2 in performance mode on the PlayStation 5. It ran in a 1080p resolution with 60 frames per second. Despite this being played on a PlayStation 5, it definitely still looks like an 8th gen game. Not the ugliest thing ever, but I wouldn't go out and search for a next gen console just for this one game. Another thing to note about Dying Light 2 is that the game screams open world. Like, it's the most open world game that I've played in a while. If you're extremely burnt out by open world games, this is a definite skip. Once you reach Villedor, you're given a massive map full of markers of where to go. This is very much a quantity over quality title. And in my opinion, that's where Dying Light 2 starts to get pretty generic. Both the main story and the side missions get repetitive and begin to blend together the more I played. Pretty much every mission is, save that guy, kill those enemies, and of course we have, climb that tower, or in this game's case, climb that windmill. It would help if the story was interesting, but no. Whenever something bad happened to a character, I really did not care. One side mission ended with this character jumping off a tower and dying, and my reaction was, oh well, back to killing more zombies. And this game gives a huge emphasis on decision making. Like, some decisions have a time limit and everything. It seems like these choices matter, right? Well, these are first impressions, so I couldn't really tell. But what I can say is that I did not really care about these story decisions. The only decision that I guess would matter would involve these water towers. When you gain control of a water tower, you're given the option to give the tower's control to one of the two main groups. Giving control to the Peacekeepers will lead to more security and traps in the region to kill zombies more easily. Handing control to the freedom fighters will lead to more ziplines and ropes to make parkour easier. I only took over one tower so far, and I gave it to the freedom fighters because, well, parkour! One more important thing to note are the bugs. For the most part, I've only seen some visual bugs that didn't really bother me all that much. But what did bother me was a game-breaking bug that appeared at the 10-hour mark, roughly. I was supposed to meet up with this one guy, though there was no map marker to be found. I ran around, I did some side content, I went to sleep, still nothing. Hopefully Techland puts out a patch to fix this. There is a 5-year plan after all. Overall, I think Dying Light 2 would have worked better as a linear game. The open world just felt so unnecessary. I would have rather had a 10 to 15 hour game with purely fast-paced parkour and melee combat. Something like Mirror's Edge. But with that said, Techland did a much better job putting out a massive game like Dying Light 2 compared to other giant publishers. I would shelf the game for now and possibly come back to it once it's patched and Techland is further into their 5-year plan. So on to the next big open world game of this month, Horizon Forbidden West. I thought the first game, Horizon Zero Dawn, was just okay. The graphics looked amazing for 2017, the gameplay was pretty fun, but kinda got repetitive towards the end. Plus a little game called Breath of the Wild dropped like a week later. And I mean, have you played Breath of the Wild? To be honest, I never finished it because of how massive it is, but it was a big game changer to the open world genre. So despite not loving Zero Dawn as much as most people, I thought it had the potential to improve with sequels. Sony sequels, like Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, Infamous 2, and of course, Knack 2, were giant improvements over the first. So I had a good feeling that it could happen again with Horizon Forbidden West. Or is it Horizon 2 Forbidden West? That's why there's a 2 in the middle of the logo, right? Anyway, how is the sequel? You have the basic tutorial with Aloy and Varl. Shit, who's Varl again? He was in the first game, right? Anyways, Aloy and Varl are wandering around, hunting robots, and raiding this facility that may have answers regarding this plague that's destroying everything. Gameplay-wise, this is where the tutorial begins. The first hour ends with this massive boss fight with a robot snake. It's pretty damn epic, and it gives off a great first impression for things to come. Upon defeating the first boss, we head back to Meridian, one of the major cities in the first game. And immediately, everybody is simping for Aloy.
I guess I should be flattered by the statue. It feels wrong. Especially when my job's only half done.
And then we have some more characters get introduced. And then I'm given the option to catch up with them. Wait, hold on, catch up with friends? Were they in the first game too? Who are you people? With me barely remembering the Zero Dawn story, I honestly don't recognize anyone. I'm gonna be real, almost all of the characters and the overall story of Zero Dawn was pretty overrated in my opinion. Like, I honestly remember nothing. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Aloy is an okay character. Like, she's not outright unlikable, but with that said, I am 10 hours into the game, so I could change my mind by the end of the story. I had one of the optional conversations. It was pretty awkward, and after that, I didn't bother talking to anyone else. Aloy then heads to the Forbidden West to search for answers. The opening credits begin to play. I have to admit, the game looks visually amazing. I mainly played in performance mode, which ran in 1080p with 60 frames per second. I tried fidelity mode, which ran in 4K with 30 frames, and I changed it back right away. Performance mode is always going to be my go-to option in pretty much every game. But anyway, the environments look beautiful, and there's so much detail to the motion capture. Despite being a cross-gen title, Horizon Forbidden West is pretty excellent for the most part in the graphics department. The combat is still great, and it feels even better thanks to the DualSense. The haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers all feel great. It never felt like a gimmick. For example, I like how there's a tiny bit of more tension in the L2 button when I'm firing my arrow. And the encounters with these dinosaur robot things are still pretty solid. To take them down, you have to scan them to expose their weak points, patterns, and other features. And once you know all you need to know, you go out and wreck them, stealthily or chaotically. Though sneaking up to one of these machines and doing a silent strike is probably the most satisfying thing to do in this game. And to traverse the open world, you can hack certain robots with your spear and ride them, just like in the first game. Though there are other ways to navigate the open world too. There is a crap ton of Uncharted-like platforming throughout the 10-ish hours I've played so far. Just like in Uncharted, there are these bright yellow points that you can jump and swing around on as they tell you exactly where to go. And early on, Aloy gets a grapple hook, which is called a polecaster in the world of Horizon. Plus she now has a glider too. You can thank Breath of the Wild for that. They're nice additions, but I haven't had enough opportunities to use them so far. Hopefully they get to be used more later on in the story. And there are a crap ton of customization features. Let's start with the skill tree. It's dummy thick. We got 6 different trees. One for weapons, one for health, one for stealth, and so on and so forth. Crafting is also a major part of the game. And it's surprisingly simple compared to the skill tree. Here are the upgrades, here's what you need to unlock them. The menus actually aren't too complicated to navigate. Oh, and I'm really liking the boss fights. So far, in my 10-ish hours of playing, there have only been 2 major ones. There's the giant snake from early on, and this thing. The battles are pretty lengthy and challenging. This second fight here actually killed me a handful of times, and the open world is fairly decent so far. You're thrown in, there are map markers to run to, and tall necks to climb. By the way, I do have to admit that the tall necks are an inventive spin on the generic tower climbs that are in every open world game. I wouldn't say Forbidden West is perfect though. Just like the first game, I truly could not get into the story or characters. I found myself getting bored during the cutscenes. The first 10 hours are mainly just one big info dump. The exposition is not that integrated well into the plot. On top of that, there are a handful of visual bugs. Additionally, I'm hearing reports of consoles bricking because of this game. Not sure how entirely true that is, but it is something that should be considered and looked into. But who knows, it could just be Xbox fanboys spreading fake news. I don't think 10 hours is enough to tell if Horizon Forbidden West will go down as one of the best sequels or the best open world games of all time. Though I will say that I am interested in playing more. But will I play more right now though? It took me almost a year to beat Zero Dawn because another big open world game came out like a week after. But what are the chances of that happening again? Well, it happened again. Time to die.